with our reporters trying to illuminate the story even better.
All right, Bill Britt for us. Keep us posted as to what you hear. Thanks so much, Bill. Joining me now, CNN political commentators Angela Ryan, Ben Ferguson, and CNN contributor Selena Zito. Selena, you have an interesting story. You were already seeing the impact of the Roy Moore case in Alabama in other races around the country. Republicans are feeling pressured here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a special House election to replace former Congressman Tim Murphy, who left under his own cloud of scandal for encouraging the woman he was having an affair with to have an abortion. So he left, but he left immediately. As soon as the scandal came out, he went to Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan said, "Time to go," and he's gone. But so now there's a special election. The Republicans and the Democrats have to pick their nominee through a process within the party. The Republicans picked first. They picked Rick Saccone, and within 2 minutes of him being picked on Saturday, an email went out from one of the other 7 Democratic rivals they picked next week saying he was just like Roy Moore. He was Pennsylvania's version of Roy Moore. And so, boom, right there, the Republicans, sort of see in the first election after this scandal came out that the Democrats have no problem using this as a tool to sort of bludgeon any Republican candidates that come out afterward.
And many Republicans, including your own Senator Pat Toomey, has now come out and said Roy Moore should step down, that he believes the woman more than he believes Roy Moore. Angela, one place where they haven't come out with a definitive response yet is the White House. The president of the White House put out a statement early on saying that if the allegations are true, Moore should step down. But this weekend, Kellyanne Conway and Mark Short went on TV and said, we need to hear more from Roy Moore. That's as far as we're going to go. Is that far enough?
Of course it's not. And I think what's mostly interesting from folks on the other side of the aisle is the way in which we will politicize these issues when it comes to Democrats, right? There's a no tolerance policy when it comes to Democrats. You can look no further than Harvey Weinstein. But I'm saying that there should be a line that we draw in the sand on sexual assault, on molestation, on sexual predators. That should not be a partisan issue. This should be something that we can come together and say there is no place for a sexual predator in the United States Senate, and that message should come first and foremost from the commander-in-chief. I think the challenge that he has is he's been accused of some of the similar behaviors, not with underage girls, but certainly with other women. And so does it open up that can of worms for him, and is that why they're keeping their hands off?
Ben Ferguson, how do you see it? Does the White House need to say more than it already has?
Not at this point, no. I think what you see here is there's a lot of people in Alabama, those that don't like Roy Moore, who have even come out and said, I talked to one of them last night, a Democrat on my radio show in Birmingham, that said, look, I don't like Roy Moore. I can't stand his politics. But this is a guy that's been investigated by the Attorney General of the state. This is a guy that's been investigated by 3 different branches of the state government, and never did any of this information ever come out. He's been unseated from the state Supreme Court, and they did an investigation. They also didn't find it. So people in Birmingham, people in Alabama, I think they say, let's continue to look into this. But let's also not just immediately, because someone makes an accusation, assume that automatically he is guilty. And I think the White House saying, if it's true, or if this comes to light that it is true or factual or accurate, then yes, we'll have him step down. I think that's a more appropriate response at this point. And I think, look, Roy Moore is in a situation where you got to ask yourself this. Do you care more about what you claim you believe in, or do you care more about you as a person? If I'm advising him, I would tell him to step aside, because the issues you claim you care about are bigger than the person. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to go down swinging.
Interesting. You say 2 things. You think Roy Moore should get out, but at the same time, you also think that it's too early to pass judgment. Angela, one of the issues, and this goes beyond politics, this goes to allegations of sexual abuse, is sometimes we don't get more than this. This is actually a lot. You have 4 on-the-record accusations from women, including one woman who says she was 14, who says Roy Moore did this. Roy Moore says no. This may be all we ever hear.
Unless there are more accusers. And I think that I don't understand what that number is, right? Is 3 enough? Is 4 enough? Is it 60? Like, at what point do you begin to believe that these stories sound awfully similar? If there are people that are from Alabama who say that this is well-known information about Roy Moore, right, which has been said, I don't know what else you really need. Again, I go back to the point that Republicans, when it's on the Democratic side, this is all they normally have, John.
Look, Selena, my hope on this kind of thing is it wouldn't be a partisan issue. That this is an issue of someone, a woman who says she was molested when she was 14. On the record, she makes women's words have to be taken into account if we want to move forward in this society. But is this one of those cases where so many times over the last 18 months we've seen that a lot of people are saying, oh my God, this is the biggest thing ever, but there are other folks who think it's all overblown, a media creation?
Well, I mean, what this woman said about what happened to her when she was 14, and even the subsequent women who said it happened within the range that is legal, but still is kind of culturally creepy. I think we need to take those things as valid concerns about the character of the person that's running for office. And I think the best thing that could happen in terms for Republicans is even if they lose this seat, or even if they refuse to seat him, they took the higher moral ground. And if you're just talking pure politics, they lose less seats down the road than just losing one seat in the U.S. Senate.
Ben Ferguson, I want to ask you about the... Go ahead, Ben.
No, I think there's one thing here that is very clear, and that is the fact that people in Alabama, they feel like they know Roy Moore better than people outside of the state. I mean, this is a guy that has lost his job multiple times because he went against what the law said.
Right.
I never thought that he should have been running in the first place, but the people of Alabama feel like they know him, and they also feel like he's been investigated by his enemies. He's been investigated by his enemies, and this never came up.
I know what you're saying 100%. When you're dealing with sexual abuse, though, and allegations of sexual harassment or molestation, we have histories here which tell us that often women don't come forward. It's not the kind of thing necessarily that comes up in investigations necessarily.
Well, and
look, maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. But this is a different case. This isn't, tax returns from 25 years ago. We have seen patterns like this. Bill Cosby. People come out decades later.
Yep.
It just happens. That's the way sometimes you see it in these cases. Go ahead, Angela.
And I was just going to say, I think one of the things that we kind of have to acknowledge is there are some things that are about antiquated values, right? We know that more than 30% of Alabamans are evangelicals, and coming out of that tradition, I understand that some of the kind of Little House on the Prairie values don't materialize or cross over as well in 2017. There are some things about the way that people are conditioned to think that have to change. And to that point, that is why women are getting the courage that they now have to come forward. That is why you're seeing that from California to Alabama.
All right.